Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of February 2025. I hope you are well. I'm using, sorry Leo, we're using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's down in the description box below. Please note we're moving away from Vimeo because of their rather intrusive, invasive and overreaching practices. And we're trying out a platform called Selfie. So you'll find the link for that down in the description box. To that end, I would really appreciate some feedback on your experience using it, because obviously whatever we go with long term, it's got to work for you as much as it works for me. So we're giving it a go, and if it's no good, we'll move on and we'll do something else. But any feedback that you could provide, if you do buy an extended, would be gratefully received. On the whole, it seems like people are kind of happier with this than they are with Vimeo. There've been a few technical issues, but actually I'm blessed to be in a position to be able to actually work those, to sort those issues out where I wasn't with Vimeo at all. So we will see. Right, so last but definitely not least, Leo, definitely not least. Do you know, whenever, whichever sign comes up last in any given month, they're usually the ones who've got the most going on. Now, you know, it's not necessarily always true, but certainly I would say 9 times out of 10, it probably is true. And so I've been side-eyeing Leo for a little wee while now. And I think I've worked out why you're being left till last, Leo. And it all comes down to this full moon that's happening in your sign later this month. I think it's the 12th of February. I was looking at the chart. I actually just have up a page with today's planets on it all the time. I try and make a point of checking in with it to see what's going on. And I skipped ahead a little, a few days, and noticed this full moon, and it's at the exact degree where it is squaring Uranus and Taurus. And I can't help but feel that is amping up the potential for this moon to be really something quite spicy. So wherever you have Leo in your chart, I would prepare for a little bit of spiciness there. If you happen to be an eighth house sun like me, you might be well advised to gird your loins somewhat, I think. Anywho, let's get some cards out here, Leo, and see what's going on. Can I have 3 cards for Leo, please? So the first card that we have out is the 10 of Cups. That's rather lovely. We like that. What about current energy for Leo, please? What's happening here? We have the 9 of Cups on its side. That's interesting. And what's coming towards Leo, please, for February? Very straightforward. We have the Queen of Swords, some Libran energy right there. And we also have the 8 of Swords sitting at the bottom of the deck. Interesting. It is that is there. Let me pull these ones up. And so already we've got a sense that there's some sort of intersection between emotions and people and relationships, and also kind of cold hard facts, truth, logic and all that kind of thing here, all combining in the state of the 8 of Swords to suggest that the ways in which you are feeling stuck, I think, are going to work themselves out. Maybe it's something to do with this full moon. What do we have underneath there? Interesting. We have a double Libran influence on your reading this month, between the Queen of Swords and the Justice card. Now, you know, justice is karma. It is consequences. It is neutral, although it often doesn't feel like that when it hits. But I do feel like for most of the signs that what has been detectable is movements of the universe, right, that seem to be shaping people's experiences for sure, but also kind of pushing them towards a particular destiny, when we put it that way. I think so. I mean, on the whole, compared to March, February is a relatively quiet month, but we do have that rather spicy full moon, as I said, right in the middle of the month. But there seems to be almost across the board with all of the signs this need to push up to the next level. And whatever that looks like for you, I do think kind of working through some internal resistances is probably going to be the hallmark of the month for you. So let's just give these a good shuffle. It's snowing here. It was 20 degrees plus last week and now it's snowing. Wild. Anyway, Ten of Cups. Tell me about the Ten of Cups. We have the Hanged Man. Nice. And we have... what do we have here? Oh, interesting. So we have the Magician, we have the Seven of Wands, and we also have the King of Swords. That Seven of Wands is significant, and I'll tell you why in a second. It's interesting that it's showing up there and not here. But then, the way that I'm associating this in my head, it suggests to me that something that has already started, something that's already been ongoing, will reach its culmination during this full moon, right? Ever as it does. Anywho, tell me about the Nine of Cups. Why is this here for Leo, please? Right, so the Two of Wands has shown up, but it hasn't jumped. We have the Nine of Pentacles. And one more, please, for the Nine of Cups. That's not one. Okay, so we have the Queen of Cups on her side. We have the Page of Cups on her side. And we have the Page of Pentacles on its side. Let's put those with that Nine of Pentacles there like that, because I do feel like this state is very much related to this, but I'll explain that as we go along. Tell me about the Queen of Swords, please. Why is this here for Leo? We have... the King of Pentacles, and the Knight of Wands. We have, this is Taurus and Sagittarius respectively, and we also do have there another 8 at the bottom of the deck. Now, again, biased, I'm a life path 8, so, I appreciate the power of the 8s, because ultimately that's what they're about, right? It's about power, it's about authority, it's about integrity, it's about professionalism, it's about... balancing of the spiritual and the material. That's very, very strong with 8. But in all senses, whenever we get cards numbered 8 showing up, what we are looking to do is kind of break through some sort of situation, right? So in this case, with the Eight of Swords, we have some sort of mental restriction that is stopping us from moving on. So we welcome this card when it comes, because what this card is saying is it's not the situation, it's the way that you're thinking about it. That immediately gives us some sort of inroads to change what feels like a very intractable situation. That's why it's so beneficial. We take our power back from the situation by not being so closed in the way that we're thinking about it. The Eight of Wands actually for me talks about acceleration, amplification, things speeding up, things gaining momentum, but it also talks about swift incoming communication too. So when we take those two things together, we've got some sort of situation which, when we hit the breakthrough, and maybe this is what the Uranian energy is for you, Leo, it's some sort of massive breakthrough in the house where you would, where you'd find your Leo placement. Like I said, I'm an 8th house sun and an 8th house moon and an 8th house Mercury and all those kind of things, right? So I'm expecting something of 8th house nature to be showing up for me. If you're a Leo ascendant and you're watching this, then it's something to do with your first house, your sense of self, your physical body, the way that you see the world, these sorts of things, and so on and so forth. You've got to have a look at yours to see what it is. But we've definitely got a sense of breaking through some sort of mental restriction, and then things picking up very, very quickly thereafter. So you should be aware of that, and treat what time we have before these kind of insights and revelations start to appear as as I'm always saying to Sagittarius, right, the chop wood carry water, right? Don't write stories for yourself, just focus on what is yours to do and just keep doing that over and over again, because there are things that are clunking into place here, and there will be consequences to that. Whether those are positive or negative is yet to be seen, because Uranus is quite a wild card energy. Or was it last month or was it this month? I genuinely can't remember. I was seeing this build up of a kind of reap what you have sown energy. Now, whether that strikes fear into your heart or whether that makes you smile, and depends on your in your personal circumstances. But I think, I don't know, we can feel that something is really ramping up. It's very low level at the moment, but on the other side of the full moon, I think we will start to see that intensity. Well, it might, the intensity may well build around the full moon, and then, you know, almost like water building up behind some sort of gate that then gives. Then we have the flow, you know. Anywho, so we start over here with the Ten of Cups. Now, the Ten of Cups generally speaks about not just you and another, but you and a number of people, right? It's very much a community card. Now, whether that community is your family, or whether it is your friendship group, whether it's people that you live alongside, or whether it's, you know, something kind of bigger than that, like a nation, you know, sense of nationality and whatnot, or even like humans, just like we're all humans and all that kind of thing. What it's saying is your focus seems to be very much outside of you. Now, it's Mars in Pisces. When we've got Mars, you know, we've got some sort of action. Where we've got Pisces, we've got that sense of togetherness, that sense of union, but also that sense of completion, where something around notions of community is beginning to complete in a way that is service-based. We put it that way. Pisces is very, very focused on being of service. And I think if you've had to make any changes, and particularly if those have been, you know, slightly difficult or not necessarily well received in your community interactions or the community structure that you're involved in, whilst there may have been resistance from some people, I do feel like there is probably a higher goal that has been set and a better way to be of service that's coming as a result. Now, let me just pick up the Triple Goddess here. What do I mean by this? Well, in a family sort of situation, it could have been, right, for example, that there's been fallings out somewhere between, you know, one member of the family and somebody else, and this has been causing tension, and this has been very, very difficult. Although Mars is generally a god of war in the sign of Pisces, we could see ourselves being very motivated to bring peace, bring forgiveness, bring compassion to some sort of situation. And, you know, whether you have been acting as a mediator between two people, or whether you actually have been one of these factions, I feel you motivated much more by a desire to protect your peace than anything else. That's the way that I would put that. About this. Yeah, temperance, right? The balance, the moderation, the not taking things too far to extremes, but always looking for that kind of balancing place between the two. We're also talking about healing. We've got, you know, additional healing meanings here, because temperance talks about healing, but also Pisces talks about healing. In terms of your focus, it's been very much on trying to create that harmony, that equilibrium, that balance in whatever way it is relevant to you. I mean, this could be a work situation. It could be all sorts of things. You know, just take it as it resonates to you. Now, we've had the Hanged Man there with the Magician, two very powerful archetypes. Pisces again with the Hanged Man, talking about things from looking at things from a different perspective, and that being essentially how wisdom is gained, right? There's nothing to be gained by keeping a very fixed mindset and staying in your comfort zone. If you are looking to expand and see things from a different perspective, you will by definition just grow, right? You will. Expanded horizons being very, very important. But the Hanged Man is also a card of submission, sacrifice, you know, and surrender. Now, I don't think that you've been surrendering to the masses. I don't think you've been doing anything like that. I feel like what you've been doing, Leo, is surrendering to the nudges of the universe that is putting you in a mindset to look for balance, look for peace, look for all these kind of things, where possibly you may have been slightly aggrieved by things that were going on in your environment before. And it's almost like you understood instinctively that in order to move things forwards, as per the Magician, right, being someone who is, you know, in a state of co-creation with the universe, manifesting what it is that you want to see out there in the world. Very, very powerful card. That first, there was a certain amount of submission to, the grind that was January. I don't know about you. Like, I didn't feel like anything too dreadful happened, but it was just long and it was just grinding. And, I kind of resigned myself to it. It was just like, fine. Mars is in retrograde. Everything's kind of, at the moment. Nothing really is going to happen in any kind of meaningful sense until spring, at least not in our own personal lives, although all sorts of things are going on out there in the world. And it was kind of just like, keep focusing on what is yours to do and just keep plodding, because it's not going to stay like this forever, right? There's been something quite passive about the way that you've been showing up, which is not hasn't been a bad way for you to go about things. Now, the reason why I said that this card here was important as it was showing up, and it was indicating that something that had already started was going to be coming to completion in February, is because the degree that the full moon is occurring is the third decan of Leo, which is the Seven of Wands. This is Mars in Leo, and it adds this kind of level of action, maybe aggression, maybe competition, but certainly agitation to the full moon. And that's notwithstanding Uranus being involved in the fray as well, right? So it's already got this electrical feel to it, but it's hot and it's electrical, and maybe it might burn a few things, right? So to see it show up here, this says to me at some point in the last 6 weeks, it's something that you have been involved with, something about the way that you've been doing things, if not an absolute, this is what I'm doing right now, about the way you've been doing things, is going to see the fruits of its labours, I think, beginning to be revealed around the time of the full moon. Now, you've got to take it a week or so either side. Right? It will definitely be most intense in the couple of days either side of it, and then hopefully it should kind of subside a little bit. But it does feel to me like this, and here's the thing, right? It revolves around a decision that you've made. It's right here. It's the King of Swords. Now, the King of Swords for me is about decision-making processes, right? So where you are being moderate, and this is what I think you've been doing, Leo. I think you've been very moderate in the way that you've been dealing with things, particularly on a community level, family level, friend level, whatever it is. Let me just shut that window there. Submitting to the will of the universe that seems to have been guiding you to take a particular path, which wouldn't necessarily be the one that you would choose for yourself, but you're kind of going with it anyway because it seems to be taking you somewhere. Just focusing on what you are trying to manifest, what you are trying to create for yourself. It's something around the decision that you've made during that time, during that process, is going to tip up over here instead. Now, we can't ignore the fact that the King of Swords also represents Aquarius, and both Mercury and Pluto, we all sick to death of hearing about Pluto, are in the sign of Aquarius. Now, by house, at least, that is opposing anything that you have in Leo. That's kind of tricky. It's kind of difficult. But it's shaping and it's moulding and it's doing something to whatever your Leo placement is, right? It's expanding. It feels almost like it's kind of stretching it out a little bit, expanding horizons potentially, and getting you to look at things from perhaps a less orthodox position than you would do. Now, somewhere in amongst all of this, a decision has been made. Now, this could be a big decision or it could be a small decision. It doesn't really matter. It will turn out to be more important later on, for sure. And you may not even recognise that it was that important at the time. Or you may go like, yeah, I need to do this. I'm focused on this. This is where I'm going now. But there's a charge. That's how I want to describe it. There's a charge to this decision. Initiated over here. Expressed over here, possibly. Maybe not until March, maybe not until April, May, June. But nevertheless, set in motion. And the charge that this decision got here is going to get further charged by Uranus, by the decan of the 24-degree decan, Mars in Leo. It's not 24 degree, third decan. It's going to get another charge there too. And it does feel a little bit like perhaps things are going to start accelerating at quite an obscene rate, probably quicker than you're ready for, on the other side of February. Now, I know that it's really weird that we're talking about your past energy, and I'm already kind of talking about what's going on in a few months' time, but really do understand that whatever's been initiated here, this is where the momentum is going to build. It doesn't matter if you don't know what the decision was. It's another one of those that's going to show up for you later on, and you're like, oh, hang on, right? You'll be able to put the pieces together retrospectively. Anyhow, when we come into your current energy, we have the 9 of Cups, which is interesting because rather than the community and the collective and the people around you, the 9 of Cups focuses very much on you and what you need, what you want, what makes you feel safe, right? It also charges you with the responsibility of being in charge of your own emotions. Because for me, the 9s, and this includes the 9 of Pentacles, the 9 of Swords, the 9 of Wands, they talk about how you personally manage whatever suit they're representing at this point, right? So here, very clearly, it would be, how do you manage your emotions, or do you allow them to manage you? Additionally, because it's Jupiter in Pisces, and Jupiter is beautiful and expansive and blows things up and, is very idealistic, the 9 of Cups also talks about your hopes, dreams, goals, and aspirations. But because it's minor arcana, it's putting it very much in the wheelhouse of what is yours to effect. And this is where it becomes quite interesting, because we've already seen that we have some sort of mental restriction, some kind of blockage around how we move forwards, as indicated by the 8 of Swords there. But we're seeing the expression of it right here in this moment. It's almost like having been in problem-solving mode for a little while and still coming up against the same sort of brick walls, and you're like, that there's no movement forward this way, it's not that way, it's not that way. I've kind of exhausted all possibilities of, how it is that I could move forwards. So how do we move forwards? Sorry, I'm just really excited because that sounds just like a... Oh, it wasn't. I thought it was one of those big Soviet logging trucks. I just love them. They're so exciting. It wasn't. It was a cement lorry. Anyway, so when we blend all of this together, we've got a state of you, Leo, not necessarily knowing exactly what it is that you want, but kind of inching closer to it. But I think more importantly, kind of not really knowing how to engage what is powerful enough about you to actually effect this. Does that make sense? Because whenever a card shows up sideways, obviously it's not in its full power when it's upright like this, which is, the way that we would like to read it. Neither is it kind of shut down, which is equally powerful, actually, in the reverse. In terms of, not even attempting to control our emotions about anything, but instead in this kind of place where it's present, but it's not yet engaged. It's not something that you are able to reach out and touch. I think the 8 of Swords is standing in the way for you, if I'm honest about that. And then we have the 9 of Pentacles. So we're back on how do you manage your resources, and this can be your money, but it can also be your time, your effort, your attention, your creativity, like anything that you have that you are capable of investing, right, becomes a 9 of something. And where are your resources? Where are they going? Where are they coming from? Do you have leaks anywhere? how do you marshal your resources so that you can actually reach out and touch what this is and begin to move it forward? Now, what's quite interesting is we have double cups cards and the page of pentacles here, and these again are on their side, indicating that there's a little bit of confusion around how to get these all the right way up. The cups cards, generally speaking, about how we feel always, and it's actually, the water, not the cups, that represents the emotion in the tarot. Cups are just the vessels that hold it, right? But the Queen of Cups is about this, she's essentially a very magnetic energy, right? Because she's so receptive, right? She just pulls everything towards her and she takes it into herself. But again, the Queens speak to me about how we understand, how we reconcile whatever the suit is. So in the Queen of Cups, it's like, what do we actually feel about this? It's not about how we manage it. It's like, what do we actually feel about this? And how can I take it into myself on such a soul level that I can maybe even talk to my subconscious about what it is that I want to create moving forwards? There are blockages here. And then the blockages are both emotional and mental simultaneously. And I think it's taken quite a bit to try and pull these apart to see where they've originated from and how, and how they can be put aside or some sort of door carved into it moving forwards. Because it feels like the resources are there, and it feels like the resources actually generally are being pretty well managed, whether it is your attention or your money or your energy generally, right? Whatever it is that you're investing at this time. But there seems to be a blockage or some sort of disconnect between how you really take this into yourself and then have it be part of a future story that you are trying to write for yourself. In some ways, I think maybe you might be kind of hyper-focusing on the material or hyper-focusing on, for example, the resource aspect of this, when actually the issue is somewhere more emotional for you, right? Now we have double pages. We've got an emotional page and we've got a resource page. This resource page is like, where is the value? Right? He's like, this thing is really cool. I really like this. I'm going to do this more. And that could be finding time to sit down and read a book, for example, right? We're not always talking about money when the Pentacles comes along. But it's an intrinsic understanding of the value of something that you have in your hand. Again, it's not upright. It's not reversed, but it's not upright. It's on its side. It's like it's here, but it's just out of reach. It's here, but it's not quite engaged. And the Page of Cups and the Queen of Cups are sort of sitting here together too, saying, well, the problem's an emotional one, but until you work out how to get into this and start chipping away at it, in all likelihood, we're all just going to sit here effectively bouncing around in a state of stasis, right? This Nine of Pentacles, indicating independence, which she does. Actually, she does. Do you know what the true symbol of independence is on that card? Right there. It's right at the bottom. It's the snail. It's not the woman, interestingly. The snail can take its home on its back and just fuck off wherever it likes. And then the woman in the picture doesn't really have that same level of freedom. She has some. But it's not snail level independence. So being locked in with this problem and rolling things around and being like, how can I make my resources go further? How can I spread my attention a little bit? How can I be more productive? How can I produce more? It's like, that's not where the issue is, Leo. And I do think that part of what this full moon will bring to you will be the realization of where the emotional and then correspondingly mental blockages have been showing up for you, essentially obscuring what is a perfectly fucking good doorway that you could walk through. We're just not there yet. I do feel like whatever you're struggling with at the moment, Leo, and I do feel like like turning something over and over and over and being like, it's like, it's going to come to me, Reminds me of when I used to do like Sudoku and stuff like that, or crosswords, right? And you get locked up, you get stuck, and you're like, I just need one thing here will unlock everything again, and I can start moving again. But I'm just kind of stuck. So you'd be scanning the Sudoku and just be like, and you could do it for maybe half an hour, like literally going over and over the same fucking thing, and then all of a sudden it's there, and you're like, oh my god, and you just unlocked the entire fucking grid, and it's amazing. Same with crosswords. You get so far, and you're like scanning the questions and the boxes over and over again, and then suddenly from nowhere comes this is what the answer is to 3 down, and from here you can absolutely answer everything else, because it just unlocks like a, I don't know, I'm mixing my metaphors quite badly here, but like a domino run, It's like, yeah, it is. It's like trying to make the first domino go over by just kind of running backwards and forwards in front of a very straight line, kind of perpendicular to it, just being like, and it's like, well, you need to actually just reorient yourself 90 degrees and then flick, and this all just goes that way. Except that the reorientation that needs to happen is actually in here, and in here it's not out here. It's nothing to do with your resources. It's nothing to do with the amount of effort and energy you're putting into something, and it really is nothing to do with whether you think it's valuable or not. The value issue, the value question, is an emotional one. There's a subconscious thing going on here with you, Leo. Let's see if the cards have got anything else that I want to say about that. Yes, indeedy do. Well, touche. We have the Ace of Pentacles and we have the Two of Wands. It is that crossroads, but it's perhaps not even realizing that you're at a crossroads that we're talking about here, right? For whatever reason, you've arrived at a crossroads, and instead what you're perceiving is just simply the end of the road, where there's a path out to the left, there's a path out to the right, but for whatever reason we can't see it, and we're like, why does the fucking road end here? Like, how am I gonna make this happen? Because you do seem to be very, very invested in making something happen. But I wonder if you're... what I want to do with the cards as I'm talking to you here is put that Ace of Pentacles over the top of the Two of Wands, and it's almost like you're so focused on the investing bit, you're so focused on what you need to give to the situation to sort it out, whatever that is, whether that's hard work or money or effort, attention, or whatever it is, that you kind of can't see the wood for the trees, Leo. And the wood for the trees, if I can put it like that, is this, and this is not visible because of this in the background. That's what I'm saying. So when we get into February proper, we've got, like I said, this Libra energy of the Queen of Swords. She's really very helpful to you at this time. Although I would caution against getting too Queen of Swordsy about stuff this month. If you were to go down the route of just completely excising your emotions from the situation, because as we know, the issue is actually in the emotional space for you. It's nothing to do with what's going on outside. It's nothing to do with your plan. It's nothing to do with what you're trying to create. It's in here. There's some sort of internal ascension that needs to happen to make sure that you are the person who can meet what it is that you're planning to do, rather than trying to drag it towards you, Do I like that as an interpreter? That'll do. Nevertheless, as a figure of objectivity, particularly when we're talking about a decision that you've already made back here, right? And this is where you've kind of got lost in the source of stuff over here. Taking a step back and employing some of the very useful attributes of the Queen of Swords here, which is a degree of objectivity and looking at things rationally and logically, could be very, very helpful to you, provided that you remember that the block is emotional and mental. It is not outside of you in any way. So if you're feeling tempted to work harder on something to try and get it off the ground, I would say take a step back. If you are trying to find a way to put more effort into something, I would say just take a moment, take a step back. Because the time for investment will come, but it's not here yet, because you've got to process a little bit more of the information that you have flowing through you, identify where the block is, and start the process of dismantling that. And that is the thing that creates the movement for you, Leo. It's not more effort, it's not more work, it's not burning the candle at both ends. It's not getting frantic about the fact that you don't seem to be able to get something off the ground. No. Take a step back, take a moment, and start processing all the information again and see where it takes you. Because what you have as supporting energy here is the King of Pentacles and the Knight of Wands. And I like this because it's suggesting to me, actually, that this momentary step back that you take produces an almost instantaneous result. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about that in terms of the King of Pentacles, because that's Taurus. It's very, very slow moving, right? For sure. Very much delayed gratification, long-term plan. However, we do have the Knight of Wands, and the Knight of Wands is known for his immediacy. He's not particularly known for his awareness of consequences or long-term planning. It's just not part of the Sagittarius makeup. But when you have these cards showing up together, what you've got is some clear critical thinking about what is going on with you. Objectively speaking, identifying what are the emotional blocks to you moving forwards. And we all have them at all times, even if it's something that we feel like we really, really want. I mean, often the more that we want something, the more that we will kind of resist getting anywhere near it, because the threat of not having that thing becomes a whole thing in and of itself. And if you put yourself out there and try and do something, try and achieve something, try and get something, try and create something, and you put everything that you have into it and you don't get it, well, all that fear of failure that you may have had your entire life, Leo, has suddenly been justified, and that would be crushing, and your subconscious knows that it would be crushing. And so it would be better to subconsciously resist even getting anywhere near what we're trying to do than get within sniffing distance of it, only for it to be whipped out from under our nose, right? But in the objectivity, we unlock two things. We unlock masterful resource management. I mean, let's put it like that, right? Because the King of Pentacles does many things simultaneously. He provides, but he also plans for the future, and he retro-engineers the steps that are required for us to get to where we're going, right? There are no shortcuts with the King of Pentacles. He has a plan. He works in a very disciplined, very committed way towards his plan. And it doesn't matter if he's not getting the, the gratification of whatever he wants in the here and now. It's going to come at some point, and that's absolutely fine. But on the other side of the spectrum, we have the Knight of Wands, for whom there is nothing other than now, and for whom instant gratification is always the top of their priority list. It's like an instantaneous unlocking of your ability to be able to start marshalling all of the resources that you've been struggling to kind of pull together. And I'm going to include at this point now your emotional resources and your mental resources, because whatever it is that has been the obstacle has been moved. It has been shifted by you. And I like this very much, because I think the joy of working out how this is going to happen is the instant gratification for you. But there is also a joy in I can make a plan now in a way that I was really, really struggling with doing before. This stepping back, particularly around this decision that you've made here, and checking all the information again. It's going to unlock everything in the right order at the right time, and it's just like hitting traffic lights, right? I sometimes hit strings of traffic lights, and it's just like you get so close it turns red. And you sit there for 2 minutes, and then there's the next one, and it's red, and it's red, and then it can add like fucking half an hour onto your journey. And then sometimes, just beautifully, you cruise up to the light, and it goes green as you're coming up to it, and every single traffic light is green the whole way there, and you're like, holy shit, I just covered like 12 miles in no time at all. There's a particular road in Newcastle. Well, there are many roads in Newcastle, but there was one that I used to travel quite frequently, Scotswood Road, and that road was fucker for that. Just every fucking red light. And it didn't matter what time of day it was, but then every now and again you drive up there, and I was like, I could literally get from my front door to Newcastle in like 11 minutes when that road was playing ball. Anyway. Right. So, don't panic about this, because we have the Five of Wands, we have the King of Cups in reverse, the Eight of Pentacles, the Knight of Wands again, and the Six of Swords. I think whatever your decision is, it's going to undergo some sort of transformation, right? There's some work that needs to be put into getting all of this off the ground, but there's some tweaking that needs to go on too. Now, what I really like about the fact that the Five of Wands here is it feels to me like you're back in the game, Leo. That's all I want to say about the Five of Wands. It doesn't feel like struggle and strife and it's going to be so fucking awful or anything like that. It actually feels like you're back in the game and things are starting to move as per the Eight of Wands. The King of Cups in reverse is quite interesting, though, because in some ways, the King of Cups in reverse and the Queen of Swords, and maybe even the King of Swords, have quite a lot in common, in so much as they are about separating from, shutting down emotions. So it is possible that if you go too far with this, that you'd end up in some strife. It could be that a toxic Scorpio maybe has, something to say about what you're doing here. But I can't get past the feeling that this Five of Wands is actually really good for you, like leading inexorably to the Six, as it will at some point, if not right now. And there it is. Whatever you're trying to do moving forward, this is a very subtle point, and I'm grateful that I took the time to sit with this for a second. Whatever you're trying to do moving forwards, Leo, and this is very, very important, despite the fact that the blockages that you have right now are emotional, once those have unlocked, it's very, very important that you understand from this point on that this is not an emotional consideration. I would go as far as to say this is business. Right? Look at the kings that we've got. We've got the King of Swords and we've got the King of Pentacles. Whenever you've got a king, you've got action, but you also have a level of detachment too. Even in the case of the King of Cups and the King of Wands, there is something that separates the kings from everybody else, right? Eight of Pentacles, get your head down, work, be committed, focus on what you're doing. Knight of Pentacles, Knight of Wands, is about looking for the opportunities. Now that everything's been unlocked, opportunities abound. And how can you move away from the situation that you're in and towards the situation that you want to be in? It's like, it's got to be business, Leo. Now, whether or not you're actually engaged in some sort of business issue or not, the message is very clear. Once you have worked through your emotional stuff, then you can put it to one side, right? We're just interested in it only as insofar as it is blocking you moving forwards. Once that block has been removed, it's very, very important that you put your business head on then, and you start thinking long term, you start creating a plan, and you stick to it. Now, Lord knows there's going to be enough to start distracting you on the world stage from March onwards. And I think those of us who can be very, very narrowly focused during this time, also adaptable and flexible and all these kind of things, ready to pivot if necessary, we will probably do better than those people who have no idea what's about to hit them in March, right? Business as usual, stay focused, Leo. Get your nose to the grindstone and keep plodding with your plan. If you can build some redundancy into your plan, as per the Knight of Wands, right, where if you need to pivot at short notice, you can do that. I think it would be very sensible to do that too, personally. Right, this is really, really interesting. So I'm going to go over to the extended now, because I've been chuntering on for ages. You're very welcome to join me there if you would like to. You can do that over on Circle. Link for that is in the description box. You could also come over to the new platform, Selfie, and give that a whirl. Do Vimeo replacement. And again, please do give me some feedback if you use it. Let me know how it went. If you have any issues, also just email me, and between Lucy and I, we can sort you out. So know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.